Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and it's good to see council colleagues and your team here. Really appreciate the opportunity to testify. As Manhattan Borough President, I represent a borough that anchors much of the cultural economy of the city, from Broadway and Lincoln Center to the Jewish Museum to El Barrio to the Studio Museum in Harlem to the Museum of the Chinese in the Americas. I could go on and on. But I'm here to join your efforts, including Speaker Menin's, for a $30 million baseline increase for cultural programming in the Department of Cultural Affairs. And I want to acknowledge the real progress in the mayor's FY27 executive budget. As you know, DCLA's FY27 budget has been raised to $239.6 million, which is an increase of $23.6 million over the preliminary plan. $10 million of that increase is dedicated to supporting the CIGs and the Cultural Development Fund organizations, and that's a very important step. And I want to thank the city administration for moving in the right direction. But even with this restoration, and again, I don't have to tell you, the FY27 budget still falls $60 million short, below the $299.7 million the council secured at adoption for FY26. An additional $20 million increase for cultural programming, completing the council's and advocates' full $30 million ask, would give cultural organizations the stable, predictable support they need to plan, hire, and serve our communities. And the stakes couldn't be higher. Again, you know that arts, culture, and freedom of expression are under attack. Already compared to peer nations, the United States invests significantly less public funding in the arts. In Germany, roughly 80% of arts funding comes from public sources. France spends over 4 billion euros annually on national cultural subsidies, but U.S. federal arts funding amounts to only about $4 per capita each year. And to compound this, the Trump administration is dismantling our federal cultural infrastructure right before our eyes, one institution after another. Thousands of previously approved NEA grants have been abruptly canceled. The president's budget even proposed eliminating the NEA, the NEH, and the Institute of Museum and Library Services outright. He's already signed into law a $1.1 billion clawback from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, defunding PBS, NPR, and the local public media stations that serve our communities and, frankly, report on local political events. At such a dangerous moment, local government must step up, both as an expression of New York values and as a matter of fiscal self-interest, because what is under attack in Washington happens to be one of this city's most important industries. The creative sector employs 326,000 New Yorkers, a larger workforce than the finance and insurance sectors combined. It's one of our city's core economic engines and a defining competitive advantage. In fact, the density of artists itself feeds directly back into our economic vitality and enables a gallery and a museum ecosystem to flourish in a way that only a few peer cities can match. Research published just last year shows that authors strongly increased their publication output after moving to New York City because of the presence of publishing houses and other authors. This is the virtuous circle of the creative sector, and it's the reason why talent moves here. It's the reason why tech giants expand here. It's the reason why tourists fill our hotels. So in these difficult moments, we gather in our theaters, in our galleries, our museums. They become really the safe harbors where movements are born, where communities are built, where activists become engaged, and where our collective resilience is forged. We need them now more than ever. That's why this fiscal year, I'm dedicating the entirety of my FY27 capital funding allotment to affordable and accessible arts and cultural projects. We're calling this the Manhattan Multiplier for Arts and Culture, and we want to leverage the Borough President's capital funds with private and philanthropic matches, prioritizing projects that expand access, preserve affordability, and strengthen long-term cultural infrastructure. The operative question is here, how can I turn my $50 million of capital taxpayer dollars into a combined $75 or $100 million with private philanthropy? But it's the capital alone that cannot substitute for operating support. Buildings need programs, programs need staff. A $30 million baseline increase for DCLA could be the operating side companion to the capital investments we all make as elected officials. If New York intends to remain the capital of culture of the entire world, we must support that culture with commensurate resources and policy. So thank you again for your leadership in this budget. Thank you, Chair Williams, for everything you're doing to elevate this conversation throughout the city, and I'd argue the entire nation, because New York is leading the way in arts and culture.
And thank you. Like I said, I do appreciate your support of cultural institutions in your borough. I've been promoting your announcement that like all of your capital is going to cultural institutions this year, and your insight on the draft riots. I told the Central Ledge team that we should work with you because you have some very pointed feedback. So I just appreciate your partnership thus far and look forward to continuing to partner with you. And thank you so much for testifying.
Thank you very much. And thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thanks so much.
Thank you.